The Trump administration just took a step we've never seen before, and it's even making some Republicans here in Washington uncomfortable. I'm Caitlin Collins, and this is The Source. And good evening from Washington, where an extraordinary standoff is playing out tonight, unlike anything that we've seen in modern American history. Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, publicly disclosed last night that he is under investigation by the Department of Justice, a revelation delivered not by prosecutors, but by Powell himself in a recorded statement that directly ties this threat of criminal charges to the Fed's refusal as an independent agency to do what the president wants.
This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
I just want to take a second to note how extraordinary that statement alone truly is. Jerome Powell, or any Fed chair for that matter, rarely speaks. And when the Fed chair does speak, it's almost always in dry, technical, measured statements about the Fed's decision-making and the state of the economy. That's what makes Powell's recorded statement that much more explosive, not only revealing that the Department of Justice is investigating him, but also saying that the investigation is a sham, and that the real reason for it is because the president is looking for a pretext to fire him for cause. That's because Jay Powell hasn't cut interest rates as fast or as deep as the president wants. And the president, who of course knows a thing or two about building projects, swelling in costs in Washington, he's been laying the groundwork for months, including this attempt, what happened between the two of them back in July.
It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed. You just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago.
Now, a reminder that President Trump handpicked Jay Powell for this job, just like he's going to pick Powell's replacement when his term is up in May. And if anyone has questions about how the Federal Reserve is spending its money, which is at the heart of allegedly what is being investigated here, the Fed does publish its balance sheet online every week. And at the White House, the president's staff, including a leading contender to replace Jay Powell, attempted to defend a move that appears to be overtly political.
Did the president ever direct DOJ officials to open an investigation into Powell?
No.
And can you reassure the American public that his longstanding criticisms and public comments about Powell had nothing to do with the investigation?
Look, the president has every right to criticize the Fed chair. He has a First Amendment right, just like all of you do.
And it seems like the Justice Department has decided that they want to see what's going on over there with this building that's, massively more expensive than any building in the history of Washington. And if I were Fed chair, I would want them to do that.
Kevin Hassett does very much want to be the Fed chair. He's in the running to be one of the next ones, in the running in when it comes to just the few people that the president has been interviewing. But when it comes to this investigation, where Jay Powell is now a subject of a criminal investigation by the Justice Department, apparently not everyone in the president's inner circle agrees with him that this isn't a wise idea, because a source tells CNN tonight that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is actually not happy about this move, and he's expressed concern it will negatively impact the markets. That's according to my colleague, Kristen Holmes. So far, those markets have held steady, but one area that has actually proved to be less so is a small but significant number of House and Senate Republicans here in D.C. who are risking the president's wrath by saying publicly that they disagree with this.
I don't think Jay Powell's a criminal. If we were to do an indictment on everybody that misled Congress in a hearing, we'd have to build a couple of new federal penitentiaries.
I support the independence of the feds, and I hope that this investigation wraps up very, very quickly.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
Another example of amateur hour as far as I'm concerned.
Those are all Republicans that you just heard from. My lead source tonight is a Democrat, the Democratic Senator of Connecticut, Chris Murphy, and thank you, sir, for being here. When you look at this, do you believe that Jerome Powell has done anything wrong?
Of course not. Of course not. This is Donald Trump operationalizing the Department of Justice in order to conduct a witch hunt against people he doesn't like, and he's been doing it over and over and over again against James Comey, against Letitia James. He's using the military tribunals to come after Senator Kelly. Now he's coming after Jay Powell. Listen, this is how he operates. He operates by threatening to throw people in jail who oppose him politically or who don't agree with his policies. Listen, I mean, I guess I appreciate, a handful of Republicans offering mild criticism, but come on, there's nothing heroic in any of that. They had an opportunity when Trump put up for nomination for key posts at the Department of Justice, yes men, individuals who were not going to preserve the independence of the judiciary. They had the opportunity to oppose them, and they didn't. They confirmed people like Pam Bondi, people like Jeanine Pirro, knowing that his intent was to sic the Department of Justice on his political opponents. And you are watching the disintegration of our democracy in front of our eyes. And if Republicans continue to offer milquetoast criticism and do nothing practical about it, they may rue that day. Our democracy may not survive until the next presidential election.
You mentioned Jeanine Pirro. She actually just posted tonight on this matter because she's the one who approved these subpoenas that went out to Jay Powell that he got on Friday. He waited a couple of days to go public with it. And she said that her office contacted the Federal Reserve on multiple occasions to talk about cost overruns and the chairman's congressional testimony. Jeanine Pirro says they were ignored, and that's what necessitated the use of legal process. She says it's not a threat, and the word indictment has only come out of Powell's mouth, no one else's. None of this would have happened if they just responded to our outreach. What do you make of that statement?
Well, I don't have any visibility into the back and forth between Jeanine Pirro and the Federal Reserve, but you played the clip yourself. I mean, Donald Trump and the people behind him have no idea what's happening with the construction project. He, made a claim on camera that it had been overly expensive, not knowing that he was conflating two buildings together. I mean, listen, everybody knows what's going on here. Over and over again, Donald Trump is creating charges against people he doesn't like, and essentially advertising it. I mean, he hasn't been shy about suggesting that he's going to use every ability he has at the White House to try to make life miserable for people who are political opponents of him, from Adam Schiff down to James Comey. He's pretty clear about what he's doing. So I don't think we need to spend like a minute pretending that this is on the level.
Well, what's remarkable about this, though, is Jay Powell normally just doesn't respond. I mean, the president has attacked him more times than you can count, really, and he hasn't really said much. So to hear him come out in that statement and not just say, hey, we got these subpoenas, but to say, hey, we got these and we believe it's just a sham investigation because I'm not cutting interest rates. What do you make of the fact that it's gotten to that point?
Well, I don't think anything Jay Powell is doing is extraordinary. He is reacting to an extraordinary corruption of the power of the presidency. I mean, targets of Donald Trump's political witch hunts would be fools to just sit back and take it. You have to defend yourself. And of course, this country has become an economic superpower because we haven't managed the economy out of the White House. We have allowed for there to be an independence of monetary policy coming out of the Fed. Putting Donald Trump in charge of what the daily interest rate would be, that would be a disaster for an economy that is already in really bad shape. Donald Trump single-handedly has made this economy stagnant, miserable. We just found out that in 2025, we had the lowest rate of job growth in this country in any non-recession year in 20 years. Families are hurting. Millions are about to lose their health care insurance. Prices are going up. Even without taking the independence of the Federal Reserve away, Donald Trump has already put this economy in really bad shape. Imagine what would happen if he actually got control of the Federal Reserve. So this is bad for our democracy, but this back and forth is bad for our economy too.
He's picking Jay Powell's replacement, any day now. Scott Bessent said he'll probably announce it when he gets back from Davos when we go there with him next week. Do you think that person is going to have trouble getting confirmed because they're going to have to answer questions about things like this when they're up for Senate confirmation?
Well, there have been a couple senators who have actually said that they're going to take meaningful action. You played clips of senators who, often just give that kind of mild, halfway criticism. But Senator Tillis and Senator Murkowski have said that they won't vote for a Jay Powell replacement unless this investigation gets dropped. Now, that's only two Republican senators. You'd need more than two. But yes, I guess I'm identifying for my Republican colleagues the real danger to our economy if Powell gets replaced by somebody who is just a toady for the White House. If you put Donald Trump in charge of the interest rate policy in this country, the economy is going to get worse. You should care about that because it impacts families. But from a political perspective, if you're a Republican, I wouldn't recommend that they take intentional steps to make the economy even worse ahead of a midterm election that's going to be pretty bad for them anyway.
Senator Chris Murphy, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I'm also joined here by my legal source, the former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. And Tom, I wanted you here because what is the bar for opening an investigation at the Justice Department?
The bar is actually pretty low. Basically, the Justice Department just needs a reasonable factual basis to think that a federal crime has been committed or is about to be committed. But look, just because the Justice Department may have the legal authority to open a criminal investigation doesn't mean it makes sense to do so. One of the most fundamental attributes of our constitutional structure is that prosecutors exercise discretion. They decide what they want to investigate, they decide what they want to prosecute, and that often requires, a judgment whether or not this is a serious crime, you have evidence supporting it that warrants prosecution. And certainly in our nation's history, there have been cases of cost overruns, there have been cases of budget renovation or building renovations that run over budget, and you don't always prosecute.
Well, what do you make of Jeanine Pirro's statement tonight saying if they had just responded to our inquiries, then we wouldn't have had to get to this point of using the legal process? And she said that they expect his full cooperation here. I mean, does he have to comply with these subpoenas?
Well, he does have to comply with the subpoenas, but as far as what she said about the fact that, look, we tried to negotiate this, it didn't work, that's why he had to resort to the legal process, that in fact is the mirrored image of the arguments that the prosecutors made when they executed the warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Is that they said, we tried to work it out with Trump, he didn't do that, and look, Jerome Powell's response to Trump is the same response that Trump gave to the prosecutors, where he questioned the legitimacy of the investigation. He said there's no basis for here, this is all political. He did so in maybe less bombastic, caustic terms than the president did, but the substance is the same.
But the difference is that Trump was refusing to hand over classified documents. Jay Powell is refusing to cut interest rates.
Yes, look, Jay Powell has it right when he made the statement today where he said that, look, what's going on here is not a dispute about the cost of building renovations. This is a dispute about my refusal to cut interest rates. He's right on that. And the president has made clear he doesn't like Powell, he doesn't like Powell's decision. And what we are seeing now, I think, frankly, is the new normal. The president is using the Justice Department to achieve political policy ends and to exert leverage over individuals who are in a position to make these policy decisions.
Well, and when it comes to, if Congress really had questions about these renovations and how the Fed was spending its money on these renovations, I mean, one, there's a whole frequently asked questions section on their website. There's a video showing exactly what they're doing with the renovations. Couldn't Congress just subpoena them and bring him in to testify and talk to him about it themselves?
Yeah, look, if Congress was upset about this, I think they would have been pounding the table on this and saying, we think you lied to us. I did like the clip that you played of Senator saying, look, everyone lies to us. It's normal. We're not going to prosecute. If we did, we'd have to put everyone in jail. So I think the fact that there was congressional silence is also a bit telling that the motive here may not truly be law enforcement, but there may be a policy component.
Kevin Cramer said if they arrested everyone who evaded answers from Congress, they'd have to build more penitentiaries.
For sure.
Tom Dupree, thank you for joining us as always. Up next here, they are surging in as many as 1,000 more immigration officers to Minneapolis as tensions have only increased after that deadly ICE shooting last week. Plus, my political sources are here to give their take on the president rebranding himself as the acting president of Venezuela. Yes, he did repost this. And also later, we have new reporting on what the president and the White House are thinking when it comes to the current military strikes they are considering on Iran in response to what we're seeing on the ground there.
The president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
Want to hear